outside of any game. And unfortunately, the biggest news of NFL Week 1 is an injury.
Yeah, it is Aaron Rodgers and the New York Jets. They did get the win on Monday night over the Bills.
Electric win. Very fun win.
It was a great win for the Jets, but obviously the bigger news here is Aaron Rodgers going down with that Achilles injury. And it wasn't just him. J.K. Dobbins of the Baltimore Ravens also missed out for the season with an Achilles injury. And Mike Williams had to leave the game. And there are, I believe, a few other guys, notable players that had injuries in Week 1. But obviously the big one was Aaron Rodgers. And I'm a Cowboys fan. Aaron Rodgers has broken my heart several times over the years. It's hard. I'm not an Aaron Rodgers guy. I think he's a great quarterback. It's hard. I don't want to root for him because he's killed my team so many times. But this was absolutely heartbreaking to watch because this was probably the biggest story coming into the NFL season. Was one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time leaving the Green Bay Packers to play for a young and exciting New York Jets team that hasn't had much relevance over the last few years. And all the excitement goes away after, 4 snaps?
Yeah, it was like 10 seconds, and all of a sudden the life had just been sucked out of the building. And good for them that the fans got to sit there and watch them win a game like that against their rival on Monday Night Football. But it was just heartbreaking. And, it's hard to root for a guy like Aaron Rodgers. Obviously, he's been in the news. He's kind of a controversial figure. But just as like a plain athlete, you're watching someone that loves this sport, and from what I could tell from watching Hard Knocks and then watching him in press conferences and interviews and stuff, he really wanted to see that Jets team succeed. He really was willing to take the baton and be like that older veteran leader for what is a really young and inexperienced team. And I think that the Jets really could have had a lot of success if Aaron Rodgers could have played a full season for them.
Yeah, and with Aaron Rodgers, it's unfortunate because just like you said, Seth, I feel like the Aaron Rodgers pre-New York Jets wasn't necessarily an Aaron Rodgers that would want to go into a team and understand, look, this isn't going to – the production value isn't going to be necessarily yielded right away. But now that he's gone there, it's a transition for the team and also for him that he hasn't really had to deal with a lot as a quarterback. And it's also tough because Aaron Rodgers is 39. He's turning 40 on December 2nd. And so then the conversation comes into play where, on whether or not, look, okay, if you want to come back, you can come back. But that season, you will turn 41 years old. And it's tough because also then I think about Zack Wilson as a quarterback that I was looking forward to him sitting under Rodgers for this season and maybe part of next season and learning from someone like Aaron Rodgers. And, for however long it's been, I'm sure he's learned a lot under Rodgers. But I also kind of think about how this could affect Zack Wilson as for his career as well.
Yeah, I want to talk about Zack Wilson a little more too, because imagine you're Zack Wilson. You get drafted to be the franchise quarterback of the New York Jets, and they haven't had success in the past, but they feel that this is the guy. This is our guy that we want. And he gets 2 seasons, and here comes Aaron Rodgers, one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, comes to New York and takes your position, and you just have to accept it. And you have to sit there as the backup, and you're thinking, what can I do to help this team as the backup quarterback now to the New York Jets on a whim? And then here this happens, and all of a sudden the Jets, are saying, hey, remember all that we said about Aaron Rodgers? Yeah, well, now it's your team again, so go get him. I cannot imagine how difficult that must have been for Wilson and for him to go out there and get them a win.
Yeah, and with the Jets, right, it's even after Rodgers went down with the injury, I think what's concerning with the Jets is that it's not even like they played particularly well after that. And not to say that they should have bounced back like that was nothing, but that defense was what kept them in that game, right? But again, with Zack Wilson, right, it's just like, look, this could have been the time for him to learn a little bit, gain some experience, even though he's been in the league for 2 years already, right? But this could have been the year for him to kind of learn under Rodgers, and now it's just been thrown in the trash.
I really think that, and this will be the final thing I think we need to say about this before we move on to another disappointing thing in the NFL that I believe Zion has a lot to talk about, but was that defense was so good against the Bills. And there's a separate conversation to be had again about Josh Allen and that Bills offense that I don't think we're going to have today, but we can certainly table that depending on what happens this next week and in the coming weeks. But that defense is special. That's a special defensive unit they got there, and it's just really a shame because that defense, yes, while it carried them in that game, and I think the ceiling, and I heard a lot of Jets fans saying this, the ceiling with Zack Wilson probably is around 8 wins, I'd say. That's probably the ceiling. But with Aaron Rodgers, it's what, like 12, 13, maybe more, right? With that defense specifically as well. The offensive line, obviously, is a little bit of an issue, and we saw it. That's the reason Aaron Rodgers was sitting on the ground with a torn Achilles 4 snaps into the game. But that defense, I think, Sauce Gardner, he's great.
He's good.
He's pretty good. Yep. And then there's so many others. They picked off Josh Allen 3 times. And Josh Allen, a bit of a gunslinger, but he's a pretty good quarterback, right? At least that's the common narrative about Josh Allen. To do that against a Bills team that a lot of people have really high expectations for, really unfortunate to see that maybe this Jets team, it's the second year in a row they're going to be wasting this good defense. Yeah, it sucks.